Welcome to the Deschutes County Board of Commissioners meeting. This is 9 a.m. Wednesday, October 20th, 2021. First item on the agenda is Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So next, first item on the agenda is citizen input, and we do have a couple requests to speak. So this will be in-person testimony. So Jim Crouch, sewer for Tumalo is the discussion. So this is a 3-minute public testimony for items that are not on the agenda. Thank you for joining us.
Yep, thank you very much. Thanks, guys, for giving us a chance to talk about the sewer system proposal for Tumalo. So I guess our goal is to just kind of get the information out there that Tumalo is seeking the approval from the county commissioners for a sewer system in Tumalo. Support and also some financial support is what we're asking for. We have a large amount of community support for a system. We've kind of formed a pseudo board, which most of the board members are here behind me. Done a lot of preliminary feasibility towards the system. Have verbal support from Larry Brown, which is DEQ for Deschutes County, kind of the head of DEQ for Deschutes County. And then solid waste, Todd Cleveland as well. I know that Todd Cleveland has had a lot of frustrations with the community of Tumalo and the systems that are there failing. There's a couple other reasons. One, environmental impact for Tumalo, having septic systems that are, within some areas feet away from the Deschutes River. No way to hook into a community system. And also there's an economic impact for a system that would go into Tumalo, and that would be, Bend being the second fastest growing town in the U.S. I think I just read a report about that a couple weeks ago. Struggling to find places to build and develop with urban growth boundaries and getting kind of crammed in. We have a community in Tumalo that has close to 100 residential lots and 40 or 50 commercial lots that could be developed but can't be because there's no sewer system in Tumalo. That would really help alleviate some problems there. The financial support that we need to take the next step forward is feasibility. Every option that we possibly could think of, hiring an outside firm to do some feasibility studies, figure out what the best option would be to be able to move forward from there. This whole proposal aligns with the Tumalo Community Plan that was written for the 2010 to 2030 2-decade period of time. In the community vision statement, safe and efficient public services is their kind of motto. And then at the end, they quoted saying, coordinate with the Tumalo residents and business owners on the creation of a sewer district in the community initiates district formation, if the community initiates district formation. So that's why we're here today.
Thank you very much. So this is the beginning of a process during our citizen input public testimony. So thank you for preparing for that, even bringing it here today. So we've got Community Development Director and staff and our board here definitely hearing the message. Let's see what we can do to work with the community and move this forward.
Okay.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
I could just say our road department director, who used to be a public works director in Redmond, has just been through a lengthy process helping the community of Terrebonne explore the feasibility and kind of tee them up for the formation of a wastewater district. So I think there's a lot of useful experience to be gleaned from that. And I don't know what the decision process was for assigning Chris Doty to do that with Terrebonne, but
Chris. Okay.
Yes, but I I guess I would ask Nick if we can explore that possibility with Chris to at minimum share the experience that he's had there. And I would also say that we are considering an American Rescue Plan funding allocation to the next stage of forming that wastewater district, and I certainly think that the Tumalo community should be eligible for similar kind of treatment, but we would need a letter of interest, or kind of mini proposal at least, to kind of get you on the lists. So
Who provides that? How's that work?
I can meet with you so that staff can work with you on making that happen.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Terrebonne actually came to me in 2019, and I'm going like, oh my gosh, we actually did get it completed. It was the third study done on Terrebonne. So started in 2019. They did polling of the community, real hands-on, and we have a commercial district just like in Tumalo where it's failing and it gives Todd a lot of headaches. So, now it's taken a couple years, but I look where we are today, and I am really thrilled and appreciative that the community came in and, said, hey, we need to do something different. And, Tumalo is such a lovely little spot next to the river, and we definitely want to protect it. So thank you, Jim, for coming in.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you, guys.
Okay, so next item for citizen input is Elena Johnson. So there's a request to speak referring to our decision on the EBAC recommendations. Oh, okay, online, good. Thank you very much. On Zoom, I see the little note on the page now.
Hi, can you all hear me?
Yes, good morning.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for giving me a chance to speak. So I'm just going to read what I prepared. County commissioners are elected to serve the people. The Employee Benefits Advisory Committee, i.e. representative of the people who keep this county running, voted by more than a 2-to-1 ratio to allow employee access to abortion through county health insurance. This means that the people who you are supposed to work for voted for a person's autonomy over their body if they get pregnant. Tony DeBone and Patty Adair, you knowingly and willingly decided to go against this employee vote. This was a failure on both of your parts to make a decision that would serve the people, and it was a decision that could have a very real, very negative impact on an employee's life. Patty, you cited so-called full-term abortions in your reasoning to go against employee wishes, meaning you based your decision to block my access to healthcare on a fake medical term that is misleading and ignores science and real statistics on abortion. Here are some real statistics. According to the U.S. Census, the median income in Bend for an individual was $32,570. According to the Guttmacher Institute, the average cost of an abortion in the U.S. is more than $500. This means that roughly a fifth of a person's income is gone if they need to pay for an abortion out of pocket. That is a lot of money to lose when you're trying to keep a roof over your head and food in your stomach. Frankly, your rationale is not grounded in reality and is laughable. Tony, you cited your values as an elected official when you made this decision. Employees do not care about your values. We care about whether or not we will have to choose between paying for rent or paying for an abortion. We care about whether or not we have the right to control our own bodies. It's amazing that you opposed a mask mandate because you said, and I quote, "This is a free society. We have personal rights and responsibilities. We have liberty and freedom," end quote. Yet you think you have the authority to make decisions about whether or not someone should get an abortion. Patty and Tony, I want to know why employees in Multnomah and Lane County, as well as Oregonians with private insurance, deserve to have abortions covered by their insurance, but Deschutes County employees do not. I want to know why you think we are less deserving of health care and autonomy than other people are. You have both failed to meet the burden that comes with being a public servant, and I look forward to a board of commissioners that will act on their duty to serve the people. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you, Alana.
So at this time, is there anybody else to speak on any topic that's not on the agenda? Is there any other hand raise feature in Zoom? Or any phone numbers? Any phone numbers that we would not recognize? Okay, so at this time, we do have other emails to the Board of Commissioners, the citizen input line. So there is another letter provided on the topic that Elena just spoke on regarding basically the same concept. There's also a request for the old KOA property, Highway 97 in Cooley. I guess, Christy, would you be able to just comment on that real quick, just to provide the current status? So, because that is an issue that's out there, why don't we use this property in the corner? And just that we had a response from the owner of that property real quick. So just a quick statement.
Sure, thank you so much. So I've been in contact with the government relations person for Walmart and kind of going back and forth and just discussing the county's interest and the general public's interest on potentially using that property. So I was following up last week, and she responded and indicated that Walmart is tied up in negotiations for the potential sale of that property. So at this time, that's not on the table and not an option to move forward with.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so that's very, very timely information. So we have tried many different avenues to communicate, and we finally have communicated. Government relations person has answered our request on that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And then multiple emails on regarding affordable housing, some very passionate statements in here. So this will all be part of the record for emails received to Citizen Input Line about homelessness encampments and housing affordability. So at this time, seeing no other input, as I say, if anybody wants to read these will be attached with the minutes. We'll move to the consent agenda.
Oh, could I just say
Sure,
something? Yesterday was actually the anniversary of the Stabilization Center. The numbers are really quite impressive. It is unbelievable the amount of time that it is saving law enforcement in the community. And I just want to thank Holly Harris for smiling for the last 3 years, having her vision. I had to do some research on it before I could vote for it. And I'm so happy to know that it's serving the community, making an enormous difference. And thank you, Holly, for all that you've done, your vision. And, it's only going to hopefully serve the community more in the future. So as more people are aware of it. But they had a nice presentation on the news this morning that I saw. So thank you, Holly.
Okay. So at this time, consent agenda. Is there a motion?
So move.
Second.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, Commissioner Dare?
Yes.
Commissioner Chang?
Yes.
And chair votes yes. Item number 9, action items, public hearing. So we're going to do a few of these. A public hearing, consideration of order 2021-040, approving annexation to the rural fire district.
Yes, Commissioners, you have the first one before you is a petition to annex into the Rural Fire District Number 2. The fire district has approved the petition. The assessor's office and the clerks have certified that the petition is appropriate, as community development confirmed that it's consistent with the county's comprehensive plan. Statute requires you to open and hold a public hearing should anybody care to provide any type of testimony. And thereafter, you can close the hearing, and staff has prepared an order for your consideration.
So this is a public hearing on the matter. So the first item is approving annexation to the rural fire district number 2. The packet defines the parcels and the signatures, and the packet is complete, is the confirmation also.
Yes, it is. Again, we've talked about this before. This is kind of an old vestige of old statute that they have the county commissioners as a public hearing authority for this. Really, this concerns the fire district and is specific to them, but because it does impact tax maps and taxation issues is why it comes before the county commissioners.
So is there any public testimony on this matter? Is anybody in Zoom or a phone call? Okay. So let's call the public hearing completed at this time. Is there a motion for consideration of this order?
I move approval of order 2021-040.
I'll second the motion.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, Commissioner Chang,
Yes.
Commissioner Adair,
Yes.
and chair votes yes. At this time, item number 10, public hearing and consideration of order approving annexation to the Bend Park and Recreation District.
Yes, Commissioners, this is a petition, as you indicated, to annex into the Bend Park and Recreation District. The packet includes approval of the petition by the Park and Recreation District. The Assessor's Office and the Clerk have certified the petition, and Community Development has reviewed it and indicated it's consistent with the county's comprehensive plan. As with the prior hearing, this would be an opportunity for the board to open the hearing, receive any testimony or input, and then staff has prepared an order for your consideration.
Okay, so this is open hearing on public hearing consideration of order number 2021-041. Is there anybody to testify in this matter? Okay, so seeing none, we'll close the public hearing on this matter. Is there a motion?
So move, approving order number 2021-041, approving the annexation of the Bend Park and Recreation District.
Second.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, Commissioner Dare?
Yes.
Commissioner Chang?
Yes.
And Chair votes yes. Well, we've powered right through a few of those. Item number 11, public hearing consideration surrendering jurisdiction of a portion of Knott Road to Campy Road and Stevens Road to the city of Bend. Cody
Good
Smith.
morning, everyone.
Good morning.
For the record, Cody Smith, County Engineer, Deschutes County Road Department. I'm going to share my screen here. Okay, so this morning we are holding a public hearing regarding the jurisdictional surrender for portions of Knott Road to Campy Road and Stevens Road. Just a quick outline for this item. I'm going to provide some background information here, give the road department's recommendation on this matter. Then I'll ask the board chair to open the public hearing. When the public hearing is complete, then ask the board to take up consideration of order number 2021-046. So background information, the revised joint management agreement regarding the area within the Bend Urban Growth Boundary, or JMA, between the city and county requires a transfer of jurisdictional authority of all county road rights-of-way that are annexed by the city. And ORS 373.270 provides the procedure for transferring jurisdiction over county roads within a city to that city. The basic process is the city makes a formal request to the county. Public hearing is held by the county governing body, and then the county governing body would adopt an order or resolution of jurisdictional surrender. So the city of Bend has recently annexed territory within the UGB associated with the two master plan developments. Those developments are the Easton and Stevens Ranch developments. I'll pull up maps of those here in just a moment. The annexed territory includes portions of the following county roads. So there's approximately quarter-mile segment of Knott Road, a very small segment of Campy Road, 120-foot segment that comprises the southern leg of the roundabout at Knott Road to Campy Road and 15th Street. And then approximately half-mile segment of Stevens Road associated with the Stevens Ranch development. So with the annexation ordinances adopted by the city has also made request for jurisdictional transfer of these road segments. Here we are looking at a map of the Easton development annexation. So the area highlighted in blue there is the territory that was recently annexed, and the road segments highlighted in red there are the road segments proposed for jurisdictional surrender. So just for frame of reference, this is down at the south end of the city of Bend. Again, right here is the intersection of Knott Road, 15th Street, and Campy Road. Then looking at the Stevens Ranch annexation. So this is over on the east side of Bend. Our road department campus is right here just south of this. Again, area highlighted in blue is what has recently been annexed, and the road segment highlighted in red is the what's proposed for jurisdictional surrender. Road department put out notice for this public hearing. We have not received any public comments regarding this matter. So with that, the Road Department recommends Board of County Commissioner adoption of order number 2021-046. With adoption of this order, the subject road segments will become City of Bend roads at midnight tonight. So at this time, I'd request that the board chair open the public hearing, and then after public testimony has been given this morning, and subject to any testimony disputing the matter, I'd request that the board chair close the public hearing and that the board consider adoption of order number 2021-046, completing these proceedings and surrendering jurisdiction of said road segments to the City of Bend. With that, I'll turn it back over to the board chair.
Great, thank you very much. At this time, we'll open the public hearing for the consideration of this order number surrendering the discussed segments of road in the City of Bend. So being a public hearing, there's no one in the room on the matter. Is there anybody with a raised hand feature in Zoom? Or phone numbers that we don't recognize? Okay, seeing none, we'll call the public hearing closed on this matter. So this has been appropriately published for our public meeting, and public hearing has been completed. Is there a motion or discussion on the matter?
I move approval of order number 2021-046, surrendering jurisdiction of portions of Knott Road, Campy Road, and Stevens Road to the City of Bend.
And I'll second the motion.
Very good. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, Commissioner Chang,
Yes.
Commissioner Dare,
Yes.
and Chair votes yes. So as of midnight tonight, they will go from county roads to city roads.
Correct. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cody,
Question.
I did want to ask, is surrender a legal term, formal legal term that we have to use? It seems like transfer I get, like surrender seems a little dramatic.
It's not my favorite term either, but it actually is the term that's used in statute.
Okay, thank you.
Good question, though.
I hate to surrender.
Surrender.
Yeah.
Okay, item number 12, consideration of board signature document authorizing the purchase of pre-engineered building for Negus Transfer Station.
Morning, Chad Santola, Interim Director for Solid Waste. This action item is for approving the purchase of a pre-engineered metal building that will be constructed as part of the Negus Transfer Station improvements we're doing this fiscal year. This is a little bit of a different approach than we took when we were constructing Knott landfill. The purchase of the building that was used for the transfer station Knott landfill was included as part of the general contractor bids. As we were moving forward with the design for the Negus project, our engineering firm approached us with a suggestion that we consider purchasing the building ourselves for the project. It affords a number of efficiencies for us. One being that when we prepare the bid documents, we have to make some general assumptions on some of the structural and foundation designs. And that kind of opens us up for potential change orders depending on which building vendor the general contractor would select for the project. Pre-purchasing that, we get all the specific structural and engineering documents for it that we can include in the construction project bids for foundation. So it avoids change orders associated with varying metal building vendors. The second efficiency is that we can use Sourcewell, which is a purchasing organization the county belongs to for purchasing the building. We actually did a bid for this project. I was unaware at the time that you could purchase a metal building through Sourcewell, and we got a single bid for the project. However, it was considered non-responsive because they could not meet the bonding and insurance requirements. Building manufacturers typically don't do bonding and insurance. And that bid came in about $160,000 over the Sourcewell bid. So the direct purchase right off the top saves us $160,000 on procurement of the building. The other cost savings is that we don't have any kind of markup with the general contractor. Virtually anything they purchase for a project, there's anywhere from 5 to 20% markup on. So we avoid that substantial markup with the contractor. So when we were talking with the contractor that submitted the non-responsive bid, they mentioned to us that we can purchase these buildings through Sourcewell. So I did some research on that, and we reached out to Nucor, who's the vendor on Sourcewell's program, and they gave us this cost proposal that's before you today. So there's a lot of good advantages for us purchasing the building directly, and the action today is to approve that purchase for the project.
I just, Chad, on the document summary, the last page, there's actually a transposition on the payment. It's supposed to, according to the middle of the document, according to the quote, it's supposed to be $27, ending in 27, and it ends in 72 on this. I don't know if it matters anywhere, but it's just a bit of a transposition.
Okay, yeah, that was, I am not the best typist. My freshman teacher, Mrs. Roman, is rolling in her grave because of my poor typing skills. I apologize for that.
That's so sweet, you remember her name? She must have been incredibly influential in your career path.
She was a sweet lady. Yeah, I'll make sure that legal counsel's aware of that when they look at the document.
At first, I thought it was on the front page, but then when I read the document in the middle, I went, no, it's just the final page just seems to be the issue.
It's $1,399,127.
27.
Okay,
I think you caught me on that on a previous.
You know, this is my job, is to read between the lines.
I should be a little bit more careful, especially when it comes to dollars and cents myself.
So we're talking $1,399,127, so that was about a $50 or so change in there, but good catch, Commissioner.
It was like, anyway.
So buying this building stabilizes the engineering and the future of this. That's the big value that I'm seeing here. We're kind of locking down the size and the construction and the materials and all the variables associated with that building.
Correct.
Then the contractor can just take it.
Right, and before we finalize the terms with Nucor, that substantial document that's included with the agenda packet, we actually went over that line by line with the building manufacturer and our design team to make sure we had everything correct on there.
And this is a steel structure building.
It's going to look similar to Knott landfill. I had forwarded an architectural rendering. I don't think the colors are quite correct, but the architectural features are what we specified for the project. So I think it works well with some of the other commercial buildings that are in the area around Negus.
Well, so then I'm just thinking sourcing, the roofing or the siding or any of the beams, it's all going to be a package at this time. So we're not going to be subject to escalating fees as we make this commitment also.
We'll be locked in with that price. There are a CMU block wall similar to Negus where it's metal on the upper, similar to Knott where it's metal on the upper structure but with a concrete block wall on the lower. So that'll be part of the bid documents here. That's not secured as part of this. It's strictly the metal structure and siding.
Cost of CMU and concrete specifically.
Right.
Great.
Chad, I really appreciated the diagrams, the visuals that you shared with us as well. It's really neat to envision this building that's going to be the centerpiece of the Negus transfer station, and to see it moving along with this order and purchase agreement.
It's definitely going to be a substantial improvement for Negus and the Redmond community. And I think I mentioned the staff report. Our schedule right now looks like we'll be going out to bid in January for the construction project.
Great. So is there a motion?
I move approval of the attached quote and order document with Nucor Building Systems for the purchase of a pre-engineered metal building for the Negus Transfer Station Improvements Project in the amount of $1,399,127.
Okay. So there's not an order specifically though, is it?
The actual agreement has the correct number, the correct amount, so.
But I'm just referring, so an order was mentioned, but it's really a document number.
Yeah, I don't think this has a document number stamped on it yet.
No, there is a document number on the document summary form for it.
Yeah, it's not on the document, but yeah, the summary form calls it out as document 2021-830.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
We'll have to make sure Sharon gets that stamped on there.
Yep, okay. So 2021-830.
8:30, I wrote it down.
Okay.
Second on 2021-830.
There we go. So any other discussion? Seeing none, Commissioner Dare,
Yes.
Commissioner Chang,
Yes.
and Chair votes yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Working right through our agenda today. Item number 13, American Rescue Plan funding update. So this is a follow-on of the child care discussion. I want to thank everybody for providing the input on this last week and bringing it back today. You know, I was, one of the sets of minutes here that we approved today talked about this whole topic being laid out and saying, well, let's bring it back next week to make sure we're digesting this, so.
I wanted to ask, this was tentatively scheduled, this item was tentatively scheduled for 9:45. I see there's a couple of folks associated with the proposals here, but Greg, do you think that there are other people coming who we should try to wait till 9:45 for?
Yeah, my suggestion would be there's 3 subtopics on the agenda today, if we can talk about 2 and 3, and then circle back to number 1
Yep.
and revisit the child care strategy from last week.
So yeah, we'll stay on this agenda item. Thank you very much, Commissioner Chang, and we'll work through affordable housing proposal development update and review of ARPA funding requests, and then work our way back to the child care discussion.
Okay, great. So item number 2, affordable housing proposal development update. I just want to let you all know that we formed a consortium similar to the child care consortium of experts in the community on affordable housing, and we have our first meeting tomorrow. So I'll give you updates on that, but the thought there would be the same concept is to eventually at some point come back to the board with a proposal for consideration of using ARPA funds.
As a package.
As a package.
In that domain.
Yep.
So, thank you very much.
Yep. And then number 3 is, go
If I
ahead.
could just ask about that consortium, Greg, is it just the people who put proposals in, or do you have other kind of, sector experts involved as well?
Yeah, tomorrow's the first meeting again, but really the idea there is to reach out to the experts in the community, whether they put a proposal in or not. So, and the idea is to come back with the best possible ideas back to the board to make some of these funding decisions with.
Is someone from the city's affordable housing committee involved in some way? Either staff or one of the committee members?
Yeah, I'm not sure off the top of my head.
I can ask you more about that later, but that is a local government committee with dedicated staffing that's focused just on this specific question. I'm imagining that someone there could provide some useful perspective on this issue, and maybe if a lot of the other members are people who are making proposals, it could even sort of play a more like neutral role in helping to frame it up and present it.
Yeah, I've made a note. I will check on that, and I'll circle back and let the 3 of you know.
Thanks, Greg.
So one of the things for affordable housing may be an opportunity to invest in, and I'm thinking of the infrastructure, water, sewer, roads, the cities, at a high level, maybe there's a way to invest dollars, or at least learn about the landscape of other federal investments that possible. So ARPA dollars is from the federal government, but there may be other funding streams. So, having that full view of, is there just a way to offset the long-term cost of utilities for future development also? So just as part of the mix.
Yeah, and that's where someone, like Lynn McConnell from the city would be great to talk about the SDC component, and could help us understand what all the other sources of financing are for these kinds of projects that need to all stack up and come together for something to happen.
It'll be a vibrant discussion.
Certainly will.
Thank you.
Yep, okay. So the third piece on today's agenda is just to review the running list, and as we normally do, each time we do an update, I give you 2 lists. One is a list of those projects that we're working off in terms of funding. These are the projects that we've confirmed against the interim final rule that we believe are eligible, and we arrive at a lot of the eligibility conclusions from conversations back and forth with the proposers. It's not just simply a proposal is sent in, we actually talk through it to make sure that everybody understands. So
Sure.
that's the first list. And then the second list is the list of all items that have been received, whether they're eligible, have not yet been determined, or are eligible. So you can get an order of magnitude of the scope of what's been asked. So as we've done in the past, this is an opportunity to talk about those, if there's any funding considerations that you want to make, or if there's more information you'd like us to circle back with and come back with. It's sort of wide open to what you'd like to do.
I have a question. In looking at this, I noticed that under small business and nonprofits, we have the Boys and Girls Club Bend asking for $619,464. And I really thought that needed to probably flip over to childcare. So we have a true picture of what we're asking for, and reading the project for the, the operation over at the St. Charles 5 Acres, they are going to be having a capital campaign. So perhaps that this money may help with that campaign or something, but I just thought it seemed like it was more appropriate to be over with childcare.
So thank you for bringing that up. That's a good point. And it is, we do have several cases in here where perhaps a provider or a requester appears like it should be in childcare and is maybe under a nonprofit for a business assistance. The Boys and Girls Club, though, this is a request that's going to be grouped in with the COCC evaluation of nonprofits and businesses that have been financially impacted by the pandemic, so either an increase in costs or a loss of revenue, which the Boys and Girls Club are requesting. So it's independent of a child care ask and a child care slot expansion proposal. So they're two different.
I know, but it's just going to be, if they have to do a huge capital campaign to finish up that project, and then we are possibly going to be giving them, for their reimbursement, $619,000. It's just kind of, okay, we're going to be giving money over here, but it's actually perhaps going to help with their capital campaign. I mean,
What you're saying, yeah.
you can tie it together.
And when that proposal comes back from COCC, there'll be an opportunity to
Okay.
further evaluate and decide from there.
So I'm sorry, not 100% clear. So is that going to come in through our business assistance package, or separate from that?
So that will be a business assistance and nonprofit assistance package from COIC, I should say. And that will be an opportunity for the board to decide how to proceed in terms of that funding. It'll just simply be a recommendation or an analysis of data within the county to the board that says, here's where the point, and the board will be able to decide from there.
So, so while with our childcare investments, we are trying to think about how to expand the number of seats and the workforce for childcare moving forward. This is, this other request is retroactive. The Boys and Girls Club is essentially just another business that by the pandemic and is trying to recover lost revenue.
Yeah, so essentially it's another business, as you said, that got hard hit by the pandemic and also happens to be one that provides childcare.
Right. Okay.
So we have that.
So something to keep in mind, but I do think of that as independent from our childcare discussion that we're having today.
We have raised hand feature. Anthony Poponi is on the Zoom call. Please introduce yourself so if you're in the room, you raise your hand, and just so I can get context of who you are and what your statement might be.
Commissioners, thank you. My name is Anthony Poponi. I am the interim development director for the Boys and Girls Club of Bend. I was not involved as heavily care, but I did put together the request to the commissioners that was just spoken about that I think would be pushed over to COIC about lost revenue during the pandemic.
So you agree with that path at this time?
The path being that there's
a $600,000 request plus, the kind of business
one that was put together in conjunction with OSU and St. Charles, and would be a
So on the topic of ARPA funding requests, kind of, I'm going down the list, and I'd like to possibly pull one or two out, or see if there's others that could be discussed and possibly agreed upon today. So I look at the broadband infrastructure, item number 24, right at the kind of the middle of and I did do my homework early, talked to a couple companies, and also traced it back to the State Oregon Broadband Office, which brought it back to our Central Oregon EDCO efforts, which brought it back to COIC. So I'm just letting the commissioners know, we went up and down on this, and now this is the request that would be the one that would provide that current up-to-date broadband needs assessment, which is kind of the reference point for the future investments. It's a $300,000 ask. Would we be supportive of approving that today is kind of my thought.
Is that going to be in the infra grant? I mean, I realize that bill has not been passed, but I kept hearing, I thought that broadband was going to be in that another 6 months or something to actually be able to do something, and I know time is money.
I think this lays out the plan of where the investments could or should go, so this is a pre-work to that.
I know we've had support from Sun River.
Yeah, the key reason that people are trying to do analysis and assessment right now is to tee themselves up to land the big implementation dollars when the infrastructure package, and I mean, even without the infrastructure package, there's, from the state level and from the federal level, there's just a ton more broadband infrastructure dollars available right now. So that's how I see these proposals, and I'm really supportive of a regional approach and a regional look. My question is, and Greg can catch us up on this a little bit. So we got that proposal from Sun River back in the day, a few months back, and there was rumblings of a similar one from Sisters. And then our first look was because of the available broadband speeds in those areas that they wouldn't be, that those weren't eligible projects. So we sort of pulled them out. But now, if we're talking about now we've subsequently learned that those kinds of projects would be eligible. So I'd want to know whether Sun River and Sisters needs are integrated into this proposal before I just funded this one in a one-off kind of way.
Yeah, so that's a good question, and I had the conversation with James Lewis and with Scott Aycock, James Lewis from the Sun River Homeowners Association, and Scott Aycock from COIC, and they're two different projects. So we wanted to make sure that we weren't dovetailing. If this was the same work, we weren't overlapping. We could do it together, but they're two separate components. And Commissioner Chang, what you mentioned about the speed, the eligibility requirement under ARPA for speeds, uploads and download speeds, that would exclude the Sun River project from being eligible because they already are within those speeds. I've had the conversation with James Lewis about it. He understands, and so
they're still not eligible.
That's right.
Okay.
Well, this would be supportive of that, kind of indirectly, as in this would be a region, it would be a set of properties that are served, we would document it and say, okay, this is the number that we know that's there, and then it would still follow on to possible other future investments.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm 100% supportive of a regional look and an analysis. I was just trying to figure out whether the particular needs that people were expressing earlier on were in some way covered by this project.
Yep. Good.
And it sounds like they are. So I would support moving forward.
Could that be a
on this.
motion then?
So I will move a $300,000 American Rescue Plan allocation to the Regional Broadband Needs Assessment and Action Plan.
I'll second the motion.
And as I say, for discussion, people that are in this arena can all plug into this. That's the value here, because we have private companies looking for the investment, there's possible future dollars coming, and there's specific community needs that can be put right on the table there for this plan. So I'm very supportive also. Any other discussion? Seeing none, Commissioner Chang?
Yes.
Commissioner Adair?
Yes.
And chair votes yes.
One that I'm not sure if we're ready to move on today, or whether it's it's for a near term.
Well, so I'd like, let's pull a few of these out for discussion amongst the three of us, because then we'll find out,
Yeah,
that's exactly what we
yeah.
need to do.
The visit this morning from the folks who wanted to ask about a Tumalo sewer system reminded me that we have an outstanding proposal from Terrebonne that has been kind of chunked up into three pieces with sort of an initial, it's not a feasibility analysis, but there's an initial piece basically of work that needs to be done for the folks in Terrebonne to be able to form their wastewater district that they want to form. And I believe it was somewhere in the range of $200,000 or $300,000 at last look. And so I'd love to, if not at this meeting, because I don't think we have the information here, but I'd love to tee that one up to move it along. That first phase piece, because I expressed to the people in Terrebonne that for the construction phase, I'm really hopeful that they are going to be able to find other monies in addition to coming to ask for ARPA funds, but they need to get their district formed so that they can even seek other money. So we'd love to see them move that first phase forward as fast as possible.
So, Greg, you might be able to help us with that. Is that mature for investment at this time? And because I think we're close, I agree, we're close. So, I mean, if we could put direction to it very clearly today by funding it, obviously, but I don't know that we're there either.
I mean, according to our chart, they're asking for $2,050,000.
Yeah, but we've seen in some of the work that Chris has done, I've seen it now broken into like 3 phases even. I believe there were 3 phases, and I think the first one was basically what needs to happen for them to form their wastewater district, which is the key to them being able to access these other.
How about we
funding
put it
sources.
into a pre-allocation bucket, and because then the discussion can get landed, in the near future.
Or we could do it next week. I mean,
but-
either way,
So the Board of Commissioners is saying there's X amount that's available for this if we're ready to go. So then by committing to a pre-allocation or a bucket, all of a sudden then there's something to respond to. Yes, this $200,000 or whatever the number is can be utilized in this fashion in the near future, because that will get people engaged in the community too.
Is Chris Doty available?
Yeah, and if he's not, we can always queue this up for an information session next week or at the next available time.
I mean, if we were gonna create a bucket, then just based on what we heard this morning, I would want there to be enough money in the bucket for a Tumalo project as well.
Oh, yeah, I was going to go there too. So it was mentioned that there is some money being spent, just some engineering analysis, like in the $10,000 range. So in the community, there's already people putting money into their funding of just analysis. So it would be very valuable in that $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 range for Tumalo, because then they could really get serious about engineering and negotiation of what are we really talking about? Scoping out the community's needs and investment, but also if there's a way to help,
I think
fund
the
some of
cost is a lot more than that. Didn't we spend like over $100,000 or something for Terrebonne study, the initial study? It was, it was up there. 30,000 isn't going to touch it. So,
So, as I say, I did go to a community meeting in Tumalo on this, and there's a discussion of, there's an existing system across the highway, which could be expanded. So it may, and that's in place right now. So that's not the same as, starting from nothing. That's something.
Right.
And the decision would be, is there a way to adapt that system for expansion and growth and spread it out? Or do they need to go to a whole new system? So that's kind of the question. So it's a different scenario. So, but just a number.
Is there a wastewater district on the other side of the highway then? Or is that
It's a
someone's like individual?
It's like a homeowners association. It's in a urban unincorporated community, so there's the authorization to have a sewer district, and the development has, been authorized by having that system. So, but it's only for a small footprint of the Tumalo plat. It's just the edge of the plat. So the discussion is, would that system be able to grow to the rest of the area? So it's a smaller number, but it's a possibility for discussion. So, yeah, well, I mean, it sounds like we're all leaning into it. We don't have enough to kind of commit to numbers today.
I mean, if we wanted to make a bucket and pre-allocate some funds to it, I would suggest maybe 500,000.
Which would be the next planning and engineering and kind of the dreaming phase for both of them.
Yeah.
Hopefully that would cover it. I remember when we first brought back Terrebonne, the studies had been done 2 times before, and everyone was rather questioning at that moment. But today is a different day, and I think we realized that we better keep our water clean.
Okay, so let's go with that. The intention for ARPA dollars for the Board of Commissioners is $500,000, which will start the conversation, so that's not landed specifically, but at least it allows people to say, okay, this is how I could use those dollars. Chris Doty is available. Chris, I don't know that you've heard our discussion. We're talking about Tumalo and Terrebonne specifically, and wastewater in both of those communities. And we're just toying with the fact of, is it a good time to allocate a bucket, a kind of not specific commitment at this time, but that amount for idea generation and community engagement on both of those communities?
And Chris, I was trying to remember in the phasing for the Terrebonne project right now, how much that first phase was that basically got them to district formation and exploring other funding sources.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and I apologize, board. I was not tied into this meeting, so I'm just picking up as you're telling me what's happening. To answer your question, Commissioner, the phase 1 is $300,000. Of that, $50,000 is intended to serve as kind of seed money to help hire legal counsel and facilitate the sanitary district formation. $200,000 was for preliminary engineering to kind of further the design, most notably in advance of needing to incorporate that into the ODOT plans as those streets are being rebuilt. And another $50,000 to pursue grant funding through the other more typical sources. So, and to date, we have spent $100,000 in Terrebonne on the feasibility study. So, if the question is, in terms of thinking about Tumalo and potential to kind of recreate what we've done in Terrebonne, we'd be looking at a feasibility study, a district formation component, probably about that $50,000 amount. And then, maybe that $50,000 amount also for pursuing grant funding for that.
So 300 and 200, which gets back to the 5 that was just mentioned.
Okay.
So, yeah, let's call that a bucket.
Or do we want to move on phase 1 right now?
Well, and that's fine, too.
No, I think we definitely should. The people of Terrebonne have, well, especially commercially, it's been incredibly impacted, so.
So 500,000, 200 and 300, is that how would we refer to it as?
The 200 was a subset of the 300.
And I'm referring to
talking about
300
for
Terrebonne,
Tumalo?
200 for Tumalo
Okay.
as a pool, well, as an application area for the topics discussed, because they're not here to respond to that, but I mean, it's showing support for let's proceed.
Maybe a pre-allocation for Tumalo, but Chris,
Okay.
if you believe that we're ready to move forward on phase 1 right now, for Terrebonne, I'd be prepared to make that allocation now. And the thought process, I don't know when you came in, but was for these folks to be able to chase other money for implementation, they need to get that district formed as soon as possible. So That's part of my interest in moving phase one along as fast as possible, is just enabling them to pursue other funds so that maybe for the implementation stage, they don't have to ask us for so much.
So $300,000 allocation for Terrebonne sewer efforts.
Yeah, yes. To answer your question, Commissioner Chang, yeah, I think we're ready. We're at that point with the advisory group, with the consultant firm, with the feasibility study, to take that next step.
So I actually think perhaps we should, if you're saying that Tumalo doesn't need as much, I think we should move the $300,000 for the Terrebonne first phase today. I think that's incredibly important for that community.
Was that a motion?
That's my motion.
Okay, second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, Commissioner Adair?
Yes.
Commissioner Chang?
Yes.
And chair votes yes. Good discussion. See, as I say, we don't get to do this among the three of us as much. We do analyze it all different angles, but now this is our public board meeting.
So Commissioner, just for clarification, that would be a $300,000 approval for the Terrebonne Phase 1 project, with the balance of the $2.05 million to reside in the outstanding request? Is that what we're saying?
You
Still
can
leaving
leave that
balance there?
in the outstanding.
So we'll move
Placeholder.
300,000 from outstanding to approved.
Please do.
And it would be great if through the formation of this district that if that number could come down. But, from speaking with Chris, I also understand that there's some very time-sensitive components of that $2 million.
So then let's talk a little bit about, so who's the entity? So if there's a $300,000 checkbook for this, who's spending the money? Because that's the trick here. We're trying to get a community to have a board who is an entity who can spend the money, but at this time it's Deschutes County doing it on behalf of the community. Because Tumalo is going to be in that same spot. We just saw a very engaged citizens, but there's no entity there specifically that can receive the dollars or write a check out of a checkbook.
Until their district is formed, I don't see who you would give the money to administer it besides keeping it in-house and giving Chris another checkbook.
Well, let's acknowledge that, so our county administrator is in the room with us, and our road director is the one that just, was pre-authorized with the checkbook, but is that even the right, load or balance of duties? I'm just acknowledging that. So we don't need to take that any more today. Let's just leave it there. So.
We'll figure it out.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks, Chris.
Bet.
So then we did not approve $200,000 for Tumalo at this moment. Knowing that Terrebonne's plan cost $100,000, and
It would be great. It sounds like they're going to follow up with Chris and
right.
figure
I think
out,
we need to hear
about the formula for
Right.
for Terrebonne.
What
It'd be
is
great
their- what
it'd
is
be
their
great for them to come up with a little bit more more than back of the envelope kind of strategy for how they're moving forward.
I would appreciate hearing more of what they're hearing their costs are going to be.
Well, as I say, so there was a community meeting, some of the players that were in the room were at that meeting, a few more were there also, I attended, and this was it. They came in during public testimony, citizen input to say, we want to get started. So it did start today, kind of the official realm.
And Chris, when members of the community from Tumalo came in this morning during citizen input and essentially asked for a partnership from the county, I outed you and I told them what you had done for Terrebonne, and so they may be contacting you to ask for similar help, and
Okay, yeah.
Nick will be in the mix on mediating that.
Okay, thank you. I think.
Oh, you mean it?
think.
You mean it?
Thank you.
Very good. So page one again, item number 41, 1017 project is another one that jumps out at me that is just a kind of a line item that we can discuss. So let's see if we could get somewhere on this. So 1017 is an effort of kind of our cattle industry and community members that take whole animals, grind them up for 1 pound packages, and it's a direct allocation to the food banks around, and it's a tri-county area, but the ones in Deschutes County very much are provided with hundreds of pounds of prepared USDA certified beef And there is a $50,000 request here. And I did speak to the leadership and say any amount is going to be valuable there. So I'm just thinking, is there a way to just pick this one off today also?
Especially considering what beef prices are going to be doing or have already done. Not that it's going to the ranchers, but yeah, the price that you and I are paying in the market are out of sight. So I would make an motion to allocate the 50,000 for the 117 project.
Have we seen a write-up on this project?
Yeah, there's paperwork that came through. And as I say, I'm just picking things off today that I learned about and I know about. I mean, this is good for us to communicate. That's why the three of us don't do this as much.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I saw the regional broadband assessment write-up, and I saw the Terrebonne wastewater write-up. I have to admit, I don't remember being able to read through this one, and I'd like to hold.
That's fine. Yeah, Greg can help us with that. Make sure we have the same information.
So I can make sure you get a copy of that as well. And I also spoke with the leadership for the 1017 project to make sure I understood it. And essentially what it is, there was an increase in demand due to the pandemic for protein. And so this allows them to purchase more beef so that they can in turn raise it and either purchase it or raise it themselves and then donate it to these food banks.
And there's another avenue here is this is local beef, local production, local slaughtering and packaging too. So I mean, it kind of helps that, the whole local system opposed to the national meat packing is what I'm referring to.
So there's a meat processing component of this project, or it's just about kind of.
Well, it starts with the whole animal.
It's about purchasing and distribution.
No, it's the whole animal going to USDA certified in Central Oregon, and it's Butcher Boys in Primeville. They have a standing slot, so it's not even in Deschutes County. But if we had USDA certified, I bet we would be able to utilize them. But it's whole animal going to that and coming out of that system, so it's that local. That's another aspect that's really exciting.
Okay, but we've had past discussions about meat processing capacity.
That's it.
And this is not kind of building our meat processing capacity. Like, it's not opening up another facility. This is about the throughput through an existing meat processing facility that is intended for food security for people who are nutritionally challenged.
But it also empowers that local system to be a little bit more robust because it's coming. The Department of Agriculture is talking about the state meat inspection program, and there's going to be dollars coming through the legislature. There's a pool of funds to be invested in capital. So it's either going to help expand an existing facility or start a new facility in the next year or two. So as I say, that's the back end of this is if we have local animals, local process, local distribution, which they've been doing, it'll help.
I think this is incredibly important. If you're looking at inflation on beef, isn't it like 20% or something? It's only, inflation is not expected to turn around any moment soon. So I just feel like anything we can help with local and keep it local, think of all the costs you save. So, yes. And protein is important.
This sounds a little bit, early on in this process, I floated the idea of kind of telling local produce growers, hey, we're going to allocate a certain amount of money to purchase product from you to get to people who need food assistance. And my impression was that there wasn't support for that kind of an approach early on. And if we were going to do that if we're going to do that for livestock, I would like to offer that same kind of opportunity to local produce growers. So that would be the other reason why I would want to read up more on this, think about it some more, and then also just ask the two of you whether you're open to that kind of a concept in the realm of vegetable growing as well.
Well, we just gave a grant, remember, the other day for Seed to Table. Maybe we need to tell them to apply for ARPA funds too, the Sisters program. I think what they do, the amount of output they have on their small acreage is unbelievable. So, and they are a nonprofit.
Yeah.
So then,
there
just
are-
like we're
there are
doing
many,
childcare
many-
and housing, maybe there's a food component to the, a
We
food-
could, you could do this, for example, if we want a nonprofit intermediary, we could do it through the High Desert Food and Farm Alliance, and they're tapped into, 15 or 20 vegetable producers, and, it's not, we don't know that every single one of them would want to participate in such a program, but to make it available, I think would be a great thing.
This is a point in time where we get to discuss this amongst ourselves, and that's a good point, Are there other opportunities down this? And are we building a system, though, too, so, yeah. As I say, I'm excited because of the infrastructure of the protein and butchering as the other backfill to this. And I'm nothing against anybody that has land and growing vegetables, but if we're subsidizing the market
It's
and
about-
not build, I don't know. I mean,
About
there's
building the
different ways to
it's
learn.
about building the infrastructure for
Yeah.
growing produce as well. I mean, clearing fields, building, hoop houses or greenhouses, infrastructure that will expand the capacity, the production capacity. Because, part of the issue, it's this chicken and egg thing of if you don't have enough production, then you can't hit certain kinds of markets. And if you can't offer, and to
Being able
expand
to
your production capacity, you need to have that market demand so.
Great discussion. Yeah, so let's take it from there. It sounds like there may be another kind of a food
Maybe next week.
powwow on this.
Okay.
Good. Well, see, as I say, we need to talk amongst ourselves with this.
Greg, I do have a question on number 59, COVID testing through Dr. Young. We had approved 15,000, and I actually spoke with Dr. Young maybe about 3 weeks ago. I know she is no longer doing that. Has all that 15,000 been spent?
So that was the balance of her contract that wasn't funded by CARES. And
Okay.
I can't tell you off the top of my head how much of the 15 was spent, but
Okay.
you know that we cleared that contract and fully funded that.
All right. Well, just wanted to let you know about that.
Just so you know, at some point, we'll add information about how the spending is going on this. We just haven't really done a lot of actual spending yet, but that'll be a part of this in the future. So you'll know where each one of these allocations sit in terms of spending.
So I
But
asked
just- so
early
back
on,
Back on the 1017 project, Commissioner Chang, I'll send all three of you, just as a reminder, the write-up that came from Holly McLean. And then, what would you like to do after that? Is that it?
I'd like to review that, and then if there is sort of an analogous proposal to be invited on the produce end, I'd like to see that. I'd like to do some outreach on that.
Okay, so is this an item for the next ARPA discussion then, would be the 1017 project? Do we want to specifically call that out?
Well, I made a motion today. It has not been seconded.
Okay, gotcha.
And I'm supportive of, bringing, because, I've been through this a few times too, because it's a cold storage, warehousing, distribution, a lot of small players being able to bring products to one location, because it's hard to support a restaurant or other commercial avenues if there's a very intermittent supply. So I understand there's a whole big discussion there.
Yeah. If we could hold this at least till next week.
Oh, yeah,
I have a
not a
chance
problem.
to read it.
Yeah, no, that's-
I'd be
Yep.
comfortable
supportive.
voting on the 1017 project then and possibly inviting another kind of produce-oriented proposal.
Yep.
After that.
So we're getting there.
So-
Is there anything else to be pulled off?
Yeah, I mean, so I had asked a little earlier, like, hey, could we wait for our childcare panelists to arrive? And now now that there's so many folks here, I'm wondering if
Time to get to
if
it.
we have if we do have additional pieces we want to
go
pick off,
afterwards.
whether we
That's
could
fine.
whether we could hold those till later and then come
So
back.
we
to
had
that.
3 parts to ARPA discussion today. We worked through the second one, and we were discussing the third item. So back to the first part of this is expanded high-quality child care in Deschutes County. Thank you very much for everybody for joining us and attending our discussion on other items.
Okay, so Commissioners, just a brief background. Last week on Wednesday, we met to bring to you the proposal for addressing the childcare challenges we have in the community, in the county. And ideally, that was a broad approach with our regional experts that came in and said, basically, here's a couple of here's some short-term options in terms of increasing the number of slots in the community, and also some long-term initiatives that we could use some of this ARPA funding for to build more capacity down the road, down the next 5, 10, 15 years. So at that meeting, you had several questions, which the team went back and did some research and provided a follow-up document for you, and I think that was sent to you yesterday. Everybody is back here and on Zoom. I'm going to turn it over to Kelly Sparks and the rest of the team of experts to go over those questions that we had that they gave back to you, and then answer any other questions you might have.
Great, thank you, Kelly, for joining us. I'm excited about the big picture here. This is transformational, and and this is what was discussed last week. Last week we were just running out of time to really digest it. I've been able to do some homework since. So one of the first questions is, who's the entity? Who's writing checks? As in, the county's going to write a check to somebody, somebody's going to write a check to each staff person, or the ownership of the building. So some of that business case, if you could help us with that.
Yes, absolutely. I think there's multiple owners in this case. So we come together, as you can see, we're a passionate group of community leaders in this childcare and early learning space. I think there's multiple owners. I think for some of the workforce program, we have Karen Prow, who is online with Neighbor Impact CCR. So that for part of the workforce program, it would be there. I think OSU Cascades for the built environment of little kits, as well as a workforce program there. I think that we have COCC, the SBDC, for the program for the Business Accelerator. I think I'm going off the top of my head here. So we also have Mountain Star for their Relief Nursery, additional infrastructure for the Relief Nursery. We have Re-Village for expanded cooperative childcare model. And we have for the centralized pool of funding, that would also be to Neighbor Impact Childcare Resources Group. So I think, did I miss anyone in that?
Boys and Girls Club?
And then Boys and Girls Club, I think that theirs is matching funding that will be coming in. So I think that we could manage that as one program collaboratively between St. Charles, OSU Cascades, and Boys and Girls Club to make sure that we meet the overall program outcomes of that in a collaborative way.
Great. So kind of going down the path of the building at the campus at OSU Cascades. So who's going to buy that building? Who's going to own that building?
Yes, so OSU Cascades, we will offer the land, and that will be, it's already a site that's already included in our master plan allocation for the site. We will purchase the modular building. We will manage the construction contracts, installation, and operations of that future center.
So that'll be a long-term asset of OSU Cascades. The building on the land will be OSU Cascades ownership.
Yes.
So, yes, when you say offer, they're going to continue to own it. And you said the buildings will last up to 20 years. So how will we know that actually will be kept for 20 years?
I'm happy we can work that through, and however you want to write the grant application. It will be specifically designed for childcare and early learning, so there would not be an intended other alternative use. It would be a modular structure for which we will do the floor print as well as the outdoor space and dedicate it to that use. So I'm happy to work through details to make sure that the county has assurance that that is the current and future use for that structure.
Because I just thought it was really outstanding. You said the building should last for 20 years, but, what in 15? They look kind of dingy compared to the rest of the neighborhood, and,
Yeah, so
yeah. And we've spent millions of dollars building them.
Yeah, of course, I would look at it this way, is that it's just as important for us that that structure be maintained as a part of the quality environment for the children, as well as for the look and feel of the campus. So I'm happy to work in a way that could structure the agreement with the ARPA funds that meets the county's needs. We want it to last longer than 20 years.
Yeah.
So we want it to be a year that's there in 50 years from now if we put energy into the facilities and maintenance of the site, both that one and if there are future potential other modular building structures, whether through this funding at St. Charles or other locations across the state. We want to make sure that we're designing a modular structure that has longevity to it.
So I don't know if you can address the St. Charles issue, but they use the term offering to. So does that mean there are 5 acres? Does that mean that we are going to be able to have the buildings there? Is it going to be a short-term, an annual lease for like $1 a year for 20 years or something? So we know that, with all this effort put into that spot, it's going to stay there?
That's a great question. I was not able to connect this morning with St. Charles, but that's something that I think we would work through. We would work through either a master lease of the term of the land. The other thing that's nice about this modular structure is that it can be moved to an alternative parcel on that site. So we don't lose the use of the building. It's modular in that way. So I think that's something that we would want to structure to make sure that you as county commissioners have assurance that we're meeting both the current and future needs of this structure for childcare and early learning for Deschutes County. I am a little hesitant to speak on their behalf, but I believe their long-term intent has been communicated to me is for the use of this parcel for childcare.
I know 5 acres does seem like a lot of property. In a perfect world, it seems wonderful, but do we really need 5 acres? I would just hate to think we got it all situated and then they said, oh my gosh, we need those 2 acres, let's move everything over.
I agree that would be an important point of clarification in the structure of this grant agreement, that we formalize that so that we have ongoing knowledge that the land will be used for that purpose.
Thank you, Kelly.
So who owns the building at St. Charles campus?
So I think that's something we can work through. It could be OSU Cascades and it could be St. Charles. From our standpoint, we are committed to operating the center as a Little Kids in collaboration with Central Oregon Community College. Either way, whoever has ownership of the building. So I think we would want to look at both tax implications as well as structural implications of that agreement with their team. But I think it can go either way.
So then if I was going to be a child care certified teacher working at that facility, who do I get a paycheck from? So these are just the basics.
Right now, they would get a paycheck from OSU Cascades. So we will stand this up as an OSU Cascades operated facility under the Little Kids brand name. And they become, actually most child care workers will become SEIU represented employees in that center.
At St. Charles campus also?
Yes, all employees, wherever they work for OSU in the early childhood space, that's how it would roll out.
So then is this being built out to be kind of a optimal scale? Because I worry about then, the cost of childcare there, and we all do, obviously, that's the key to this, but 100 kids maximum or something like that at these facilities. The teacher to child ratio, and I want to think down the path of, are we setting a different rate for public and private childcare? That's one of the concepts they're going to figure out.
Yeah, that's a terrific question. So what we will do is we will design the classroom space to maximize the ratios in the classroom. So that's part of the first Little Kids project. So an infant room, for example, will be smaller than a pre-K classroom, so that we can have our larger kiddos have the space and area for gross motor skills, whereas our infants may need less space for that, pre-crawling in particular. So we'll maximize that to the ratios that Early Learning Division has to maximize the number of kiddos in that space. I think I should also point out the St. Charles location would also include extended hours into the evening as well as potentially weekend care. So while at any one point in time, it's about 100 kiddos in that space, the actual number of families and children served will be greater because they'll have extended, so there'll be different schedules so we can accommodate both people in the healthcare industry and potentially industries like manufacturing where there may be split shifts or alternative working hours where we're not currently meeting the childcare needs in the region. So that's also the intent of the St. Charles location.
So Kelly, reading what we received last week, that's what I was wondering about. It said that the second facility will eventually become a West Side branch of the Boys and Girls Club, providing after-school, evening, and summer enrichment. Okay, but is it still going to be childcare during the day, too? I mean, once it gets built, which is after they get their, campaign filled.
So that Bess Boggins is not here today from Boys and Girls Club, but I think we would work to maximize the use of that center for all of the uses. So the intent is to partner on that. So in the first center, we will have a pre-K, drop-in K during the day and an aftercare program in the afternoon. That same space being used for summer enrichment in the early years while Boys and Girls Club is going through their capital campaign. Then the second center will move that aftercare out of the first center into the Boys and Girls Club second facility. And then we'll look at both summer enrichment, all-day care for elementary age children, as well as how we maximize the use of that facility for other care.
I know, because, childcare is needed, all times. I mean, people work in restaurants at night and things and, definitely need help, so.
Yeah, the difficulty with space sometimes is that for a 3rd to 5th grader, the materials in the classroom and even the furniture height and size, even toilet size, is different than that for a 3 to 5-year-old. So that will be the trick, is how do we create a maximum flexibility but also meet the developmental needs of the children and at the ages that they're at in each of those spaces.
Any questions?
I don't have any questions.
So COCC, is that building going to be owned by COCC or OSU Cascades?
A third facility, if we were able to extend to COCC, ideally that would be owned by COCC, and we would work in collaboration to operate it under Little Kids.
So then a paycheck for an employee would come from OSU Cascades program still?
From Little Kids, yep.
Yeah, see, that's just what I'm trying to get clear, yeah. So Little Kids is the business that writes the paychecks?
Yep.
Which is an entity of OSU Cascades.
Which we need to turn into its own entity. Right now, it's just OSU Cascades with a brand on it. At some point, we need to talk about creating that into a separate legal entity.
Good. Yeah, so as I say, that's kind of where my brain goes. Okay, who's going to be writing the paychecks? And
OSU
what is it going to look like 10 and 20 years from now?
We have stepped up to take that risk to move this forward as quickly as possible, to operate it and to write those paychecks.
Great. Any other questions? I mean,
I have another one. I noticed one of the programs is doing only 6 in the first year and then 24.
Workforce Development Program?
Right.
Yeah. So that is based on the number, that's first of all ramping up. The goal would be 6 to 12 in the first year. So it depends on how many internship sites could be located in the first year. So thinking about that as between now and January 1 would be the goal start date for that. So we have 3 classrooms at OSU Cascades in the current Little Beeves program that we are operating this year, before Little Kits. Or can we find additional internship sites in the community? So we've estimated that we think we could recruit 6 people into the program this year realistically.
You're talking January 1st?
Yes.
2022?
2022 would be the goal start date. If we can do more than that, then we will find a way to do more than that. But I wanted to be very realistic in who and how many we could recruit into a program at this point in time.
I know I talked to, I texted with Ken this morning, and their program, they were hoping to have 15, has 10. 2 of the people that were in it are going to do it in January. So, I mean, I realize that's life. And, when the word gets out there that we're offering this for the community, I'm really hoping that we have more people that sign up
That's the goal, and then to increase that in marketing time, and then align it with the beginning of an academic year, so whether they're taking classes at COCC, whether they're taking professional development courses offered by Neighbor Impact, or whether they're taking 4-year classes at OSU Cascades, really offering them those 3 different pathways, and then the internship coordination and support time.
I know last week when we discussed this, we actually were saying if we did 2 years for the fast track and then the sustainable, it was also on a 3-year program. I would hope that after like a year and a half, we would know, and, you know, the programs, if they're really successful, could come back to the county, but I would feel more comfortable in funding for 2 years for those 2. I just think, okay, we need to have feedback. We need to know that this is actually working. You know, we don't have 30 people that are going through the program and then they're all going, oh my gosh, I don't want to do this. You know, I know it's you lose some, but we're putting in, we're really trying to get rid of the desert. So I would feel more comfortable in doing 2 years for those 2. And then we're talking, it's about 165. It's about, what is it, $650,000 that we could cut back on, and then, you know, just kind of know that, okay, if the program's working, let's, you know, maybe we need to put more money in it, because we definitely need to get rid of our desert.
My proposal last week was actually to do fast track and little kids internship for just 2 years as opposed to 3 years, and that would actually save us over $950,000, or it would reduce the requests in front of us by close to $1 million.
But see, the little kids, the problem with that is like what Kelly was just saying, we've only got 6 in the first year, and then we've got 24. So I really hated to, you know, with 6, that I know it's, Kelly, it's what, 2 months away. So I can understand that it's going to be really hard to build that up to 24. That's why I thought the other 2, you know, I want to be really fair to everybody, but I just know that we're not talking very much time.
The one other piece to think about was that those 2, fast track and little kits, were proposed with the assumption that the child care, the recipients of the workforce, the child care facilities that will be using these little kids interns or the people who come through fast track would prefer to pay 0 for those people in their, you know, the 12-week chunk that they're there, or you know, the longer little kids internship, which I think by year 3 we should see. You know, if these programs have demonstrated that they can produce quality workforce that these child care providers need, I do think that we will see that they would be willing to co-invest. So I definitely appreciate the desire to support programs that take a little while to ramp up, but I do think that by year 3 there should be some more willingness to cost share from the facilities that are using the interns or the workforce that's produced by fast track, and so I guess maybe if we want to keep year 3 for little kids, maybe we do a reduced allocation at that time or something like that.
Okay, so we're looking at it, it's like $1 million ask from us, so let's say we did 2/3 of it. Because the last year is actually their most expensive ask for us. It's $423,000. So if we did 2 year, you know, okay, so they're asking for $1 million. Let's do $667,000, and then maybe Kelly, you'll be able to move some people into the 6. I appreciate people being conservative, but perhaps you'll be able to come up with some more people that participate. Would that be appropriate?
I mean, kind of to go with your principle of we want to give them some support in year 3 so that they're able to, really stand this program up, then maybe a little more than 2/3. I mean, I would say give the year 1 and year 2 allocation, and then something for year 3. So that might be, I don't know, maybe more like 750.
750 total. I think that's probably fair, because I know when you see what's happening out there with, with all the jobs that have help wanted signs on them, 750 seems appropriate. That's, at least Kelly, that it's out there. And
So that would trim the Little Kids internship request by 250.
Right.
And the fast track, if we dropped year 3 for now, that would trim that down another.
Fast track, that's 540,000 that it trims off of that one. And then the sustainability, it trims off 116,550. And we're still, I believe, it's still allocating almost 17% of the ARPA funds to childcare. So I think that's really, hey, gosh, let's hope this really can make a difference for our community. I know we hear it nationwide. There was a story from Montana on the news, I think. I saw it, I don't know, this week maybe. And it's everywhere. So, let's see if this is really a model for the nation.
Like I said last week, I think this is kind of like a moonshot for our community, and big picture. As the baby boomers retire, the percentage of our population that is worker age is shrinking and shrinking. And if we're not providing childcare, if there's not adequate affordable housing in our community, we're taking that already shrinking proportion of working age people and shrinking it even more and depriving our economy of the people it needs to run it. So this for me is this is not just important to all those families out there, but it's also fundamentally important for our regional economy.
So if I haven't made a mistake, if we do this, according to my calculations, $6,768,450, that's 17.8% of the ARPA funding.
I think that's.
I go where did Greg go? Oh, that's right, he's in the back of the room.
Wanted to see.
I know, Greg, you need to check my numbers.
So I appreciate, that was really wonderful being able to work through that just now. So, it's close to what you were proposing last week, and she's got the numbers and how it.
Well, I just think we need to clarify with St. Charles offering, it's got to be on the dotted line somewhere, that it's actually a long-term lease for the program, truly. And hopefully it will help with their workforce situation, that people will have childcare really conveniently available. And for the East Side too, if Boys and Girls Club with their capital campaign can get that second, Little Kids program going, the modular unit, it's really what our community needs. And there's a lot of growth over there, so.
So do you have kind of a number now from?
I do. I hope it's really right, but I did do calculations on my real calculator. So I propose, and this includes the $1 million that we have already allocated, is it not? Already in here. It's listed the Bend West, the Little Kids West, which we have approved. Including that $1 million, it is $6,768,450 for childcare in Deschutes County. And that includes the $500,000 for their capacity fund. It includes $125,000 for the Business Accelerator Program at COCC. There's a lot of really wonderful programs in here. Revillage, I love what they do, $350 a month. That includes their allocation of $350,000. We could have some amazing things, and we actually had a childcare in La Pine that approached us for grant funding a couple days ago, and hoping, to do for their fund to help parents that can't afford, and hopefully, they can access more of this $500,000, because they really had a great preschool program. It was really exciting to read about it.
Do you want
that's my motion.
to list out the specific allocations for each line? Since you sort of started along that pathway.
Okay, so accelerator, well, I have them subtracted at the bottom. The accelerator stays at the 125,000. This childcare sustainability is 400,000 less $116,550 because that was the third year.
That's 284.
Okay, and then we have the fast track, which was $1,000,006 originally, and less 540,000 because that was the third year. And then we have little kits, which is going to be less 250,000, so that will be 750,000. And then the other numbers all stay the same per our capital allocations. Little kits, 1 million. Little kits, St. Charles, with that is 2.1 million. And then we have Mountain Star for Lapine and Redmond at 600,000. We have the Re-Village, Sisters Bend in Redmond at 350,000. The capacity fund is $500,000. So that is everything on the our proposal for today.
Just a question of clarification. So the third year that you just, Commissioner Adair, deducted, would that go into do we want to hold that in a reserve for that third year, that discussion later? Or how do you want to handle that?
Gosh, we've got to hope that this really does pick things up to, you know what, maybe we should just hold it for next year, and then we'll know in a year where we're really at. So I would think that might not be a problem. But it's, what is it? It's almost $1 million.
So we'll have a reserve line for workforce development. Okay.
Yeah, it's like, what, 900,000 or something?
And Greg, would that be allocated?
Yes.
Or would that be kind of an outstanding request? That's
A contingency?
Well, that would be your decision, but what I'm hearing here is that it would end up being an allocation or a reserve that's unallocated. So it would show as committed, you just haven't made specific commitments yet.
okay.
And
It's 906,000, so yeah, that's a lot.
So there's other big funding opportunities at the state level too. So I mean, by starting this project, by committing to this project, there could be a whole lot of things evolve in the next 12 months, which will sure give us guidance about, what do we need to backfill or fund because there's a reason, or it's going so well, let's go reallocate it to something else.
I mean, I'd also like to build into this that the way we're allocating these funds, that the recipients have some flexibility. So for Fast Track, if you get two years of funding, and by next year you're saying, well, actually, the people receiving these workers in year 2 are willing to pay 25%, and you can save that 25%. You could use that in the third year. I mean, I'd be happy to provide that kind of flexibility as well.
So in some of the conversations we've had, one of the things we've talked about is a periodic check back with the board, just to let you know where things are going, how we're doing, some outcomes that have been achieved, and maybe there's some pivot points along the way that we learn about that we just don't know today, that we'll learn about tomorrow, that could possibly do exactly as you're saying, is maybe we can redirect those funds for a better return.
I do want to recognize at this moment in time, I was reading the report from 19, and the fact that in Bend, 33% of, this is a 19 report, were actually family child care providers, 33% in Bend, and it was 41%. Now, this was pre-COVID, so, what are those, how many of those people have had to fall away? And I'm sure a lot of them have. But maybe that's another vision for the community, is to actually get the family healthcare providers with all their training. I would hope that it can happen. So we're going to have a lot of teachers, 333 teachers or something that we're adding to our workforce?
The goal, that is absolutely the goal.
I'm forgetting whether I seconded yet.
Oh, yeah, so let's finish the business case. So Greg, are you clear on the numbers as Commissioner Dare shared them? And we just talked about having an unallocated portion, or allocated uncommitted portion, and a discussion in a year or so. So, and this will be newsworthy no matter what. So if we're clear, do you want to make a motion as discussed? I guess we can keep it there. So
okay.
Greg will have the final numbers.
Okay, I move we allocate 6.768,450 for childcare with a contingency of $906,550.
There you go.
I'll second.
Okay, any other discussion? A lot of great comments made during this process. I want to thank everybody in the room that's here to advocate for this. And Kelly, thanks for answering our questions this morning. We're going to vote first. So Commissioner Adair.
Yes.
Commissioner Chang.
Yes.
And chair votes yes. Now we can cheer. Yay!
Thank you.
I wanted to say again, thank you all so much for framing this up for us in a way that we could see how to make strategic investments to turn the dial on childcare. And it'll be really exciting to see all of this unfold.
On behalf of all of us, we are deeply, deeply appreciative of the energy and effort that you're putting into childcare for our region, and we look forward to continuing to work together as a consortium to come back to you and report the good news of the workforce, as well as the childcare centers that we are going to build in collaboration. And I truly believe that this will be a game changer for Deschutes County for our workforce here. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kel.
So one question, I had a note to myself. What's the vision at St. Charles if somebody wants to kind of explain that? As in, the positive vision statement that we're going to be able to put in our heads about that. Is there any kind of lead person on that, or is that going to be you, Kelly?
It'll be Rebecca Berry, who is their Vice President of Human Resources.
Okay.
She's unable to attend this morning, but
Yeah.
absolutely, we'll make sure that you have her contact information. All of St. Charles is very excited and committed to this project.
So, and maybe even come back in the near term for that, because it was mentioned last week and it was mentioned this week, but it wasn't laid out. So I would love to see, okay, this is it. This is what we're going to do. So that maybe is a short-term request just to come in and explain that, because that is very impactful. We know OSU's Cascade campus is being built out, and this is going to be a great addition to it. But, I mean, talk about healthcare in St. Charles, right in the middle of everything these days. That, I'd just love to learn more, just to show the excitement on that effort. So with that, thank you very much, everyone.
If I can make
yeah,
one
sure.
other request. As we communicate this out, that this allocation out, one of the most important numbers I can, the two really important numbers I think that will be important to convey to the community through the media are, how many additional seats does this package produce? How many additional childcare workers does this package produce? And it would be great. I'm picturing Whitney doing a press release right now. It'd be great to include those kinds of bottom line numbers. So I don't know if we would be able to put that together just from looking at all the pieces. So if we could have some help with that, that would be great.
Well, this
No, it's in here.
3:39
It's,
5:30.
yeah.
I mean, it's kind of there.
But
yeah.
even with cutting off, shaving off year 3, is that still?
But yeah, some good analysis can be done here and help promote it.
Maybe number check us.
Yeah.
Yes, we're committed to doing that, and we will collaborate with Whitney Hale to communicate this externally.
Thank you, everyone. Yeah, there we go. Show some excitement.
And so if anyone wants to know where they can donate for Christmas, the Bend Boys and Girls Club
There you
has got a capital campaign that's going to be important.
So still on this agenda item for one more moment, American Rescue Plan funding update. Is there any other discussion? I'm glad that we talked about the kind of the
1017 and
food project stuff. Yeah. So because that's pretty valuable. It's kind of coming back around. Okay, let's look at this at a more holistic, because now we got different angles that we've even heard from. So I'm excited about that. And listen to that cheering. Is there any other line item to be pulled from the spreadsheet today that's possibly ready to go?
No, I think next week. I think we've already,
Okay.
yeah, we spent
Just making sure.
7.
All right. Thank you so much.
thanks, Greg.
So item number 14, Community Development Department Fee Waiver Policy.
Recognizing that's a tough act to follow.
After we get through this, we'll cheer for you too.
We cleared the room.
Yeah. You cleared the room.
You can just mic drop now.
Yeah.
So thank you, Commissioner Sherry, Community Development staff. Joining me today is Peter Gutowski, Community Development Director. And we're here today to talk to you about some proposed revisions to our fee waiver policy. The intent of those revisions are to align the policy with our current procedures, eliminate some of the personal information that we previously requested, and then also to make it more clear the process to request a fee waiver. So submitted to you for review was a memo sort of describing all of that. The original policy that has some yellow highlighted areas, and those are the items that we were proposing to be removed, and then the revised draft of the proposed fee waiver policy.
Definitely just kind of brings it up to date. Some of the items in there are it just sounds like they're from a different era.
Was this from 1993? A lot of things have been that we've been updating lately.
You know, it was revised in 2000, well, I think it was created in 2004, revised in 2006, 2013 as well, and now we're proposing a 2021 revision. So it, you know, in essence, it goes from a 7-page document down to about 4. There was all sorts of requirements in the original policy that we did not utilize, which could have been community service in exchange for fee waivers. There were, you know, I'm not sure if you want to go through each of these changes individually or if you've had time to review that information.
Real well highlighted, yeah.
It was interesting. I was shredding bank statements once. They used to put your social security number on a bank statement. I was like, can you imagine? I know. No, I mean, it's like scary.
I do have a few questions. And just the idea, the concept of doing community service to get a fee waiver, I think is cool. I appreciate that. Practically speaking, it may not be something that we can do, but my questions were mainly to try to understand what's coming in right now. It's like who is requesting fee waivers for what, and because I don't have a really good sense of how fee waivers are being used or how they could be used.
Sure. So really in general, it's not utilized very often. And most frequently, I believe, if there's for example, if there's a code compliance case that's outstanding and it's less costly for the county to waive the fees and assist with the owner of the parcel to clean that up than it is to pursue the case through the Code Enforcement Procedures Manual procedures. I think that's one instance that we see most frequently. And again, I did an analysis over quite a long period of time, and it seemed like there were a lot of fee waivers that occurred during the Great Recession time period, as you can imagine, and really not many since then.
Got it. Okay. And so that's the main potential use and previous use of
That is my understanding. So, for example, the Community Development Director has the delegated latitude to make those decisions as it may relate to a code enforcement case or a lesser cost of compliance. Then the board still retains the right to hear all appeals. You also have the right to, for example, if there's a natural disaster, if we want a fee waiver, like a blanket fee waiver, that's retained by the board. And then there's another, or any other case where public health and safety is an issue, that the board has the right to make those decisions.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, again, Peter Gutowski, Community Development Director. To Commissioner Chang's comment, we have seen recently a request that doesn't fit the existing or even the proposed changes to our fee waiver program, and without getting into specifics, but it's a large-scale project that would potentially involve either a text amendment or a plan amendment zone change in a certain area of our county. And so, there are occasions where parties are expressing frustration with with our fee process, but they don't meet the, being indigent or, a nonprofit status. And as Sherry's research shows, and the pattern of practice has been, the Deschutes County and the Community Development Department just doesn't authorize those kind of requests. And invariably, they can work their way up to administration or the board. But from our standpoint, as a fee-dependent department, it's not something that we have had the liberty to consider. And so therefore, we've denied that request. And more often than not, it ends the discussion, and those parties step back and evaluate whether or not that's something they want to actually apply for or they reconsider.
And I might add that another criteria for even being eligible is indigency. So, we would verify that just through an affidavit of indigency based on that person's statement.
Well, it's going to be valuable to get a, known work permitted on the documents associated with properties. So that's always going to be the goal. Safety and health is the key to this. But yeah, we want to help people most in need also.
Commissioners, if I just may offer just a couple of comments. First, a lot of jurisdictions don't have a fee waiver policy, and so it's always unclear for whomever is coming to the counter or who's going to the elected body, are there fee waivers or not, and if so, what are the policies, what are the procedures, and so it's kind of a discretionary. So having a policy to begin with really provides clarity to everybody. Mm-hmm. The policy that we've had in place since I implemented it for nearly a decade, in close coordination with Tom Anderson, who was, I think, largely the author of it in the early 2000s, there are still a lot of phrases that have been left to interpretation, and sometimes it's staff at the counter that somebody's asking for a fee waiver, and so they provide the policy, and they say, oh, well, it's for these purposes. And, well, it's like, well, but that's not how we've interpreted it. And so I think that the department's done a great job of really providing that clarity so that when staff has that request at the counter, they can explain exactly what it is. If it's appealed to me and or to the board, it's clear. And the board always has discretion. But it just provides clarity for everybody through the entire process as well. And I can give you a number of examples that Sherry is certainly aware of, where, for example, there's an elderly couple that the husband has passed away. The wife has learned that the husband had some improvements to the house that were not permitted. She doesn't have the resources. She's struggling to permit as well as complete the permitting process and then to bring it into compliance. And we can see if we pursue this through code enforcement, we can get there, but it's going to be expensive for the county. It's going to be a real challenge. Whereas if we can waive fully or partially those permitting fees up front, then she can use the resources that she has to actually make the improvements that are necessary. If there's unpermitted work, how do we get it permitted? And so that's a real example of how the fee waiver can really work for everybody and is a good financial decision for the county. Waive the fees that may be up to $1,000 just to get the process moving forward. The spouse then invests that $1,000 into the improvements, and the case can then be resolved.
Great.
That's really good to hear, because you know at that point in someone's life when they've lost their spouse and they are really probably kind of lost, and now they have to take over the responsibilities for the county to do that. It's a very compassionate plan, and I'm really thankful to hear it.
I guess the one other piece of this I'd like to just explore and make sure I understand is that if we're granting these fee waivers and we have costs associated with performing various services that would otherwise be covered by fees, that is coming out of CDD's other revenue streams, which are primarily fees. So basically, other people are paying more fees, higher fees, so that we can sort of absorb these. We can subsidize these public good needs in some ways, I feel like if we are, if you're providing public benefits, public goods that really aren't, that are hard to tie to the person who is paying a fee for something else, that in the ideal world, I would prefer to pay for, I think we should do that, but in the ideal world, I'd like to pay for it from somewhere else. And so I just want to, I don't know, I don't have a sense of the magnitude. It doesn't sound like we're talking about very many dollars, but if in the future this becomes a big ticket item, I'd like us to consider, possibly, providing a fund out of the general fund or something like that to provide these public benefits without burdening, the person who's just coming in to pay their fee for the project that they want to do.
Well, one thought real quick. So for the last 50 years, Central Oregon has been through boom and bust cycles, right? I mean, either we're growing fast or we're stopped dead in our tracks for a little while. So as we're growing fast, the fee revenue and dollars are being created by all those fees, and there's even a reserve fund being built. So it's really that flat period or the down period where fees have stopped because the economy's really slowed down, and there's more of those needs. So that's the moment where we could say, general fund subsidy of the department because the economy slowed way down. And we've kind of seen that in the last 10 years. So, I mean, and it's been discussed a little bit, just like that.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to jump ahead, but it's probably in the order of $2,000 to $3,000 per year of a budget between 7.5 and 11 million.
Oh, gosh.
And so that's the magnitude of it. But Commissioner Chang, it's a great question, because I have taken fee waiver requests to the board on occasion for a public or a nonprofit entity, and the board has either decided to approve the fee waiver and then made the department whole, or the board has declined the fee waiver request and then provided a grant out of lottery funds or another funding mechanism to help offset the costs for the nonprofit organization. So I don't know that we've had any that have come to the board this calendar year, but that does happen on occasion.
Okay.
Then there's also two phases for that at the desk, when you're like, well, maybe a fee waiver is either asked for or offered, however that happens, which is just kind of the business of the community development department. Or if it gets escalated, all of a sudden it becomes a public meeting if we're discussing, and that's a whole different phase for a fee waiver.
Okay. Well, I'm glad. Yeah, I'm glad that we're not. I'm glad that it sounds like in the past we haven't taken this out of CDD's ability to do other work, or kind of saddled other fee payers with additional costs to provide what are just general public goods that are unrelated to their project. And that I'm comfortable with that. Yeah.
So is there a motion?
Yes, I move approval of the proposed revisions to the CDD fee waiver policy.
Second.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, Commissioner Dare?
Yes.
Commissioner Chang?
Yes.
And Chair votes yes.
Thank you.
So that's it for our published items today. We do have
Thank you,
one
Sherry.
executive session, if we're available for that. How about we take,
I see John is on.
how about we take other items, and then maybe just stand up for just a moment, and then get back to John.
Okay.
So are there other items? I have two items. So at the beginning of the board meeting, we're taking citizen input. As commissioners, we're seeing these emails come in and being able to read them real time. And I've been just kind of sharing the topics. Are we comfortable with that? So just like we talked about public testimony through Zoom a couple weeks ago, or because we could read each one and acknowledge. So this is citizen input. When somebody sits in front of us, they state their name and the topic. So we could take time and read these. So I'm just making sure we're not disconnected from what you might expect to see. This stack from regarding affordable housing, it kind of goes all over the place, different opinions. I want to thank everybody for that input. And as I say, we're able to read these real time. They're CC'd to our inboxes as they come in. Is there any thoughts? Because as a chair, I could be reading each one of them too.
You could be. No, I mean, government transparency is really important.
Well, that's why I say it's attached
Right.
to the minutes. I'm just making sure we're not.
Yeah,
You could paraphrase them, could you not?
Well, yeah, but that means, I'll take 5, 10, 15 minutes and go through.
That's
the
okay.
back then. So, yeah,
I
that's
think
why I figured I'd
paraphrasing
bring
might
this
be
up.
a really good idea, because people, with the Zoom and everything, people are feeling very disconnected. And, we saw that Monday night with our marijuana meeting, 3 people were on the phone, and it really wasn't working. It was clearly apparent that in person is much better. So I would say paraphrase.
Each one you're referring to?
Yeah, or you could say, okay, I have 7, they're from so-and-so and so-and-so, and they're all, this is what the message is.
For and against?
Yeah, it'll take a bit of coordination,
That's what I'm
but,
thinking, 'cause I just-
yeah, I would do that.
I feel like the way that we've been doing it, the topics are mentioned. We share a little bit about the for and against, or kind of the concern that is embodied in the comment, and then it is in the public record. I mean, it's in the minutes for people to look if they're curious.
So then.
I could see, there would be some value in sort of summarizing or distilling a little bit. I mean, maybe we could have, maybe we could have Whitney or our public information, person just kind of do a synopsis for us, and that you could just read through very quickly,
that's possible.
as opposed to,
Because-
you on the fly trying to
Figuring out what the name is.
Go through the
what topic
stack.
is, Are they for or against?
Yeah,
That would take a while.
I don't think we should read each one. I think a little bit of kind of summarization or aggregation of it is good. And I feel like we have been doing that to some degree. So I don't necessarily have a problem with the way that we've been doing it. If we
So maybe
want
you have
if we
one
want a
page
little
at a
bit
time.
more, yeah.
Because then we can say because I don't know if there's 20 or 30 here. Sometimes I've estimated I think there's about something.
Right.
So maybe a one-page piece. So this would be
Yeah.
for Sharon to help us possibly.
Yeah, or just
one
Oh, she's
page.
going to be thrilled, yes.
I do think, or again, our our communications staff, who's
Yeah, whoever, yeah.
a
A little bit better summary up front.
little,
that I
maybe a
can
little bit
basically
more.
read as the chair, because
We got-
I
we
could go
got-
all over the way with it.
We got 25 comments about affordable housing, and some of them said this and some of them said that. That would be great.
Any thoughts, Dave? Is that?
I think you'd have to ask what the purpose of public input is. Is it to communicate to the board, or is it to have a soapbox or an extended audience? If it's to communicate to the board, the email system works appropriately, you all get the citizen input email. If it's to give somebody a public forum to communicate broader, of course, before Zoom, that meant the 2 or 3 people that were in the room. Now it's different, so.
Well, yeah, so then I could
guess
be
you
in a.
probably need to ascertain what the purpose of it ultimately is.
Each person a person who's chairing the meeting generically could end up reading a statement that's critiquing me on anything I've ever done in my life. I mean, so we could be reading a statement that's pretty negative for and personal even, because I mean, there could be any kind of content in these things. So as I say, I just knew that I kind of skipped through it at the beginning, but we should acknowledge it for what it is, and we are able to read each one of them.
Yeah, I mean, to this kind of like platform concept, I don't necessarily, if their written comments are going to be in the minutes, I don't feel like we need to go through in detail what people's comments are, but I think that there is real value for the community to understand the order of magnitude. If we get 50 emails about something, I think it's useful to relay that to people that, we heard from a lot of people about this topic, and it doesn't have to, we don't have to give a ton of detail about it, but.
Yeah,
but,
so I'm comfortable with that. So just because I don't know how many are in this little clip here.
Right,
So
yeah.
just a little bit more content, how many there are here, and if there's a clarity, black and, for or against, or on the topic of. So maybe there's three ways that we can acknowledge it. Okay, just a little bit more. And then also for information, the summary of assessment and tax roll was published. the assessor's office, so this does have the tax rates all calculated, finalized for the year as of January 1st this year. The tax bills are in dial, and they're going to be mailed soon. So I don't know what the date is, but it's happening and it's available. So that was interesting to learn a couple days ago. You can go to dial and see your tax bill now, even if it hasn't been mailed to yourself or whoever pays the tax bill. Any other items?
No, I don't believe so.
Anything else?
I'm just trying to go back through the meetings I had this week.
Oh, I did have Sisters yesterday.
Sisters.
EDCO.
Okay.
And we lost our person. Cappy has moved on to a bigger and better project, which is great, but she's still working in Central Oregon, so that's wonderful.
Serving the region, yep.
And we had an enormous discussion with Roger Lee. John Stark was on our Zoom platform on, do we hire another executive director? What is it we can do? So we're kind of working through all those bumps, but it does seem really important that Sisters maintains their presence. Having Laird come into town, the diversity of the components of Sisters is rather amazing. So we're going to meet again next month, and I think that's a good thing to keep discussing.
I guess the MPO met yesterday, and I guess one of the key sharebacks, or the two key sharebacks from that I would relay are, number one, there was a lot more additional discussion about the safety campaign, the transportation safety campaign that's cranking up in the area. And then number two, there was also a lot of discussion about a bike pedestrian crossing in the North 97 corridor project area somewhere, and what that would look like. It might be an undercrossing. It might be. They were mostly talking about an undercrossing, not trying to build some kind of sky bridge or something like that. But those were two takeaways from that meeting.
So I have a couple more items. The Project Wildfire met yesterday morning, so it was a kind of a debrief from agencies and a good community meeting. It's all on Zoom. Commissioner Dare was in attendance also, so the two of us were there. And community organization. So Project Wildfire, letting the world know that the time for fall cleanup and the half-price sale is going to be available. But it was good to hear from the agencies just about their experience this year. Everybody was in a pretty good mood. They're talking about firefighter fatigue at this point, but switching from firefighting mode to prescribed burns and then planning for next year was some of the topics that were discussed.
Well, the really fortunate numbers for our community were that our fires were less than average, and even though we had that one March 28th that probably woke up and scared the whole community, our numbers were really actually outstanding. We had the Grandview, what was Grandview, we had Darlene, we had significant fires, but our numbers overall, considering the drought, how dry our vegetation is, it was hopefully we're going to get a lot of rain. They said truly that's when we can really take a big breath, because when we get that major rain, and we're all hoping for snow where it should be in the snowpack area.
Also, divided highways open south of Sun River, so they're still working on the interchanges a little bit, but if you've been down there, it's definitely splits off, and the new section's being utilized. Van Divert's either straight across to go north, or there's a turn lane and a turnaround to go
a J
north.
turn.
Yeah, from
Yes.
north to go across. So it's all functioning, and as I say, it's still being a construction zone, but it's being utilized. Also, thinking of the MPO and possibly COACT, Tumalo could be asking for an undercrossing for sewer. That's the other thing that is a reminder that we've got Tumalo interchange roundabout project happening, and if design gets finalized and ODOT kind of locks in what they're going to do, and then the next week they come back and said, oh, by the way, we want to put a pipe right over here. That's just one of those things we all need to be informed about, and I think Chris Doty and Bob Townsend have heard about this, so, but that's the other implied thing here is the timing. So we have to remember that.
Well, the really good news is the undercrossing is up the hill a ways because it's going to be so much cheaper to put it at that point. And so I would think
This is just the
the
sewer
sewer line
sewer
could,
pipe.
The bike
No.
ped undercrossing, but.
Yeah.
But we will rapidly lose the opportunity to put it in underneath the roundabout.
Yeah, sewer pipe.
If that, yeah, but those are both opportunities. The roundabout in the near term and then the bike ped undercrossing in the long term. And I don't know enough about the situation to say that one's the ideal location for
It's just that we don't want to lock down the
Right.
thing that would have been optimal. That's just
Right,
impossible.
right. But it just seems like with the roundabout construction so close, I can't imagine them kind of pulling together the concept fast enough to do it while that roundabout site is being torn up. But I could be wrong.
Yeah, so it's just if it comes up and all of a sudden. And then also the unconference yesterday was the entrepreneurial ideas. There was about 8 or 10 people presenting yesterday afternoon over at the Tech Center, 1001 MK. And then also the Bend Venture Conference is happening this week, so it's a real exciting time. Central Oregon is known for that Bend Venture Conference. The new startup ideas, the launch phase, the expansion phase, investment happens, and it impacts in the Northwest. So it's pretty exciting hosting the Bend Venture Conference again.
and for the first time in 7 years, the Columbia River Circuit Finals are going to be starting tomorrow night at our fairgrounds indoors. So please go online to columbiarivercircuit.com, I believe, and you can order tickets for Thursday, Friday, or Saturday night. And I'm wishing my niece, Mary Shea, that she'll do a great job.
There you go. Okay, seeing nothing else, let's go to